Hey, this is Shane Long, wedding and portrait photographer based in Minnesota and Florida, and today I am coming at you from sunny Southwest Florida. I want to do a lens review here of the Canon 16mm 2.8, the RF version. I'm using it on my R5 right now to record myself. I'm going to compare it to my $2300 15 to 35. And the reason I bought this new RF 1635 is I wanted to see if it would be a little lightweight option here for recording videos like this, for taking it to weddings when my wrist is getting kind of sore, and just seeing how a $300 lens would compare to a $2,300 lens. So I'm gonna run some side-by-sides. I'm gonna take some photos side-by-sides at some different apertures, take a little video clips. All right, here we go. So I want to compare the image quality. I want to see, is there a big advantage between spending in the $200 to $300 range to the $2,300 range. Here first is the 15 to 35. I'm going to stand and shoot them side by side here. Now we're going to shoot that same scene with the 16mm. I now have the photos imported into Lightroom. The image is taken with the L, the $2,300 zoom lens, the 15 to 35. I have tagged in red since they're L images. The cheaper lens, the 16mm, I have tagged here in purple. So we're going to take a look. The first thing we're going to compare here is straight out of camera, no corrections or anything, image quality. So first let's look here. This is the 15mm, the 35 taken at 15mm, and here is the 16mm. I didn't have a tripod again. I was just hand holding here trying to get some real life image quality, but I was, the difference in the focal length wasn't that significant. We can look at that later, but if we have them side by side here, you can just see the vignetting pretty easily, and you can kind of see the distortion. So the cheaper lens has pretty significant distortion going on. Let's zoom in and take a look at the sharpness. At 100% here, both of them are perfectly sharp. There's no difference between them that I can see. As we get closer to the edge, I do notice that it gets a little softer and softer here. If we go into 300%, really zoom in if we want to be picky, you can see that the 16mm is getting soft here. This one's still staying pretty sharp all the way to the edge. You can see the purple going on is getting really soft to here now on the cheaper lens, if extreme corner sharpness is of importance. Let's go ahead and turn on the profile correction now for both of them and kind of see how they look. So now if we look at them with the profile correction on, it cleans up very, very well, which I'm very impressed with. I do notice overall that the color is different. So I have the white balance set on the two of them. This one has a nice, clean, crisp kind of look to it. This one has a little bit of a purplish kind of look to it. There's a fountain here, so we're gonna go over, take some photos with that, see how they turn out. These two images I shot at f4. I'm very impressed with the image quality in both of them as I look at them, not noticing a lot of differences here. Once we get down into the corner here, there is some chromatic aberration here showing up on some of these purple highlights. Let's go ahead and see if we can develop that and get that to clean up here with just a little bit of removing this chromatic aberration. That took care of most of it. We could go in manually here and continue to defringe it if we want to try to get rid of that. That's all cleaned up, completely usable. The image looks fantastic. Can't even tell a difference between the 15mm shot here. Now we're going to take a look at two images. This is the 15 to 35. This is the 16. Let's go ahead and hit compare. Here we have the L image over here. Here we have the cheaper image over here. very similar in terms of sharpness. If we get down here into the corners here, and again, I'm at 300%, and I'm doing that so that you can see it more easily if you're on YouTube on a smaller screen, but you can tell that it gets purpley, that it kind of loses its color and once you get into the corners. So if that's important to you, the corner sharpness, the L image still holds up a lot better. Let's take a look now. I shot them at 5.6. So that we could see, man, the sharpness in the center. If center sharpness is something for you, that looks fantastic. Overall, the color looks great here. Let's zoom in here. Color's pretty similar here down in the corner. The L version is sharper and holding up a little better, but zoom back out if you're looking at it. If you only need it, you know, web size, this 16 is fantastic for that. I wanted to try a full sun shot here comparison, and I shot this at f8, center sharpness, identical. Kind of coming over to the corner here, let's take a look at this thing we might be able to compare. The L image is sharper and there's less chromatic aberration. Again, if we come way down here into the corner, looking at this tiny little bottle cap down here, just a little bit of purple fringing on that one, and the color, it's a kind of a purpley color instead of a clean, true color. But the image as a whole, especially in the center, near the mid part of the image, holds up very well on the cheaper lens.
One thing to note is you don't have that zoom like you do on the 15 to 35 on this RF16. But one way I worked around that is I programmed one of the buttons on the back of my camera so that I can press it and then switch into the crop factor, the 1.6 crop factor. And I did use that on another shoot and found it very useful. That I did it on an engagement session. I had the 16 on one side and my 50mm on the other side. And so I was able, doing a downtown session, to be able to get a really wide shot quickly. And then I was able to punch in and get a 24mm perspective, which really did add some content to their shoot.
I think it's pretty cool that the R5, with the resolution that it has, you can use the crop mode and turn that 16mm lens into about a 24mm lens just with a couple presses of the button. It will drop it from 45 megapixels down to, I think, 17. And so if I were to zoom in here, you can tell if I shoot here with the 15 to 35 and I shoot it at 24mm, this is how much resolution I have at 100%, whereas this now is cropped in the crop mode on the 16mm lens. I don't quite have as much resolution, but viewing the 16mm shot by itself, there's still plenty of resolution here to work with. I mean, 17 megapixels, you can do a lot with that. You can print that, still a great size. And once you shoot it in the crop mode, you've kind of eliminated the corners, so it's really sharp all the way to the edge of the frame now. Even at 2.8, this thing is razor sharp. So shooting in crop mode could be a great option for you.
I did have my first wedding. I brought this little RF16 to the wedding. I wanted to try it out. I will say, as soon as I got into the family portrait section, I was hammering through a lot of different group photos, and I put the 16 to 35 right back on because there was times where I had 30 people in the photo. We were jam-packed outside in this tiny area. The 15 to 35 allowed me to quickly zoom out, zoom back in, compose just how I wanted. This 16 didn't give me that versatility. I did bring it back out during the dance because I wanted to see, would it be lighter as I'm taking some of those crazy dance photos of people dancing around, and I'm holding my camera up sometimes and getting some different angles. But I gotta say, once I had my 600, my flash on there, it still felt just as heavy, and it almost felt heavier because it wasn't balanced right, and so it was tipping my wrist down. And after I kind of injured my wrist a year ago, it just kind of hurt. So I did go back actually to the 15 to 35, finish the dance with that lens. Here I am checking out the video footage on the 16 2.8 STM. Just want to get a look so you can see uncropped how that would look if you were using it to record yourself. All right, we'll give it a little walk here, see how it's handling that sun flare. And this is no image stabilization turned on, just me hand holding it with the Canon R5. And this is how stable the footage is if you turn on the digital image stabilization on the Canon R5. Just by looking at myself, it seems pretty good to me here. All right, now I've switched it to the 15 to 35. I can tell you right now it's a lot heavier in the hand holding it out like this. Now you'll be able to see though how it looks if I'm just walking around with that. But man, heavier, so that is definitely an advantage for the little guy.
Let's look here at a size comparison between the two. It's pretty obvious that the 16 millimeter is much smaller than the 15 to 35, and it is significantly lighter. Here's a view of the front of them. Here I wanted to show you the difference on the camera. So here is the 16 millimeter on the R5, and here's the 15 to 35 on the R5. So it is a huge advantage in terms of size and weight, if that's important for you. If you're, holding it and you're out hiking or taking it to travel, the 16 to 35 is really nice to put in a little bag. That said, I don't find the 15 to 35 extremely large by any means. It's a great size. I use it all day at weddings, and even once I put my flash on it, it balances really well with my flash. Whereas I found that when I had the 16 millimeter on with my flash, the flash put too much weight forward and continually put weight going forward on my wrist. So I actually did like the way the 15 to 35 handles with a flash. A few concluding thoughts. I am extremely impressed with this little 16 millimeter. It is sharp in the center, especially. Yeah, when you get to the extreme corners, it gets a little soft, but I mean, at the price point, that's very impressive. There is some distortion and some chromatic aberration, but with Lightroom, you can very easily correct that, and you can even have it set to import with those corrections so that you never even see those imperfections in the lens. Its color is decent, especially in the center of the frame. Once you get towards the edge, it gets a little bit more purple, but overall good color. Its main huge things here, though, are its extremely small size and weight, and its great price. For me, I think I'm going to stick with my 15 to 35. I already have a 24 to 105 as a backup for me, but I think for a lot of people, this is a fantastic option.
Thank you so much for watching. If you hit that subscribe button, it really helps me out, and maybe consider giving it a thumbs up. Down in the description, I'll have links to all the products I mentioned in this video. Using those links helps support me in making these videos. We'll see you next time.